Hello. In this video, we're going to go over the conflicting viewpoint style of questioning that shows up on the ACT science portion. So this is more like a reading comprehension style of testing, and it's also something that you're only going to see once in all the passages that can show up on the ACT science portion. So the rest of them are going to be like that previous style of questioning that we went over with the graphs, tables, and charts. So this only shows up once, but still it's something you want to be very comfortable with because there are some key facets to it that you want to understand. First and foremost, I like to call this also the nerd fight, because what you see is it's always going to be two or three scientists sometimes that are going to be listing their ideas. And the main thing you want to understand here is that this is a reading comprehension section, essentially. It's not what do you know about science. It's about what do they think they know about. What do these scientists think they know about science? So you may be writing things down like the correct answer to some questions may be the earth is flat, because they're going to be asking you, what does scientist number 3 think about earth's shape, right? And so it's not about your answer being correct in the grand scheme of what's true in science. It's about what are you reading properly into these scientists' opinions and being able to regurgitate them and find citing evidence in the passage itself. So let's hop to it. We look at number 6, and this is a classic reading comprehension question. And let me show you why after. Which of the following phrases best describes the major point of difference between the two scientists' hypotheses? Well, that means you got to read both of these dudes or gals, objections or like their opinions on what this is. Which of the following phrases best describes the major point of difference between the two scientists' hypotheses? Well, to answer this question, first, it's tricky. It's actually kind of a trick by the ACT, because what they're doing is they're expecting you now to read everything here before you can answer one question. And just like reading comprehension, we don't want to go through all that. We want to be as efficient as possible. This is like a general idea or a grand idea that they ask you in the first question. So let's skip that for now, and let's jump to something a little bit more specific. According to Scientist 2's viewpoint, so we jump now here in the passage. Compared to the altitude at which a stony asteroid would have exploded in Earth's atmosphere, a comet of similar size would most likely have exploded at. And then there's all these options. A comet would have exploded at the same, higher altitude, a little bit lower, or a much lower altitude. Well, let's take a look at what the scientist says here. The object was a stony asteroid. As it centered Earth's atmosphere, its high speed created a large air pressure difference between the area just in front of the asteroid and the area just behind the asteroid. The large pressure difference eventually exceeded the structural strength of the asteroid. The asteroid flattened, decelerated rapidly due to the dramatic increase in its surface area, and fragmented before reaching the ground. This fragmentation would have appeared like an explosion. Calculations show that a comet, here we go, between 10 meters and 100 meters in diameter would explode at an altitude much higher than 8 kilometers. So now, with all of that reading in there, we have a good idea for what Scientist 2 is now talking about, and we can see that it's going to be B. Number 8, Scientist 1's viewpoint. So we can jump here, and we can already see what they're talking about now is like asteroids and comets about to hit Earth. And Scientist 1 is saying the object was a comet. But now we see Scientist 2 is saying the object was a stony asteroid. So we can already see what their objection is, right? What's their key difference in their opinion? And they seem to be talking about something that hit the Earth, and they're not sure whether it was a comet or an asteroid. And this is the scientist's opinion on what they think it is. Moving on. So Scientist 1's viewpoint indicates that when the materials that compose most of a comet are sufficiently heated, they change to, and then you can see that they list 3 phases and then a vacuum, which is not a phase. The object was a comet, a body made of ice, such as frozen water and methane and dust. Most of this comet-treated material is volatile, easily vaporized, and low in density. Friction in Earth's atmosphere heated the comet to a temperature at which it exploded high above the ground. The majority of the ices and dust were vaporized. Bam. So they told us what vaporization is. And from there you can see, well, to be vaporized, that means that it's turning from liquid into gas. And this is a little bit of a question diving into your inherent vocab knowledge. So you can see that there are some basics in here, but you can see it's nothing, they're not asking you to know like crazy astronomy or anything like that. Some basic rules though. Which of the following statements best describes how Scientist 2 would explain why no large identifiable fragments of the objects have been recovered? So then A, any large identifiable fragments that reach the ground have been removed by erosion. Any large identifiable fragments were thrown hundreds of kilometers from the side. No large identifiable fragments of the object reached the ground. No large identifiable fragments of the object have been recovered due to the soil conditions in the area. So then now, I already read up to here. We didn't read anything about fragments hitting the ground, so maybe it's later on in there. And if I were to now, at this point, I can start skimming keyword fragment, and I can already see that here. So I'm going to start now reading from around this area. Recovery of large asteroid fragments is difficult due to the area's boggy soil. Right, so large asteroid fragments, soil. So then I already see that here, which makes D a very tempting answer. So let's start eliminating if we can. Any large identifiable fragments that reach the ground have been removed the area by erosion, recovered and believed to be melted and resolidified pieces of the asteroid. So it doesn't say anything about it being removed by erosion. The word erosion is not in there. Any large identifiable fragments were thrown hundreds of kilometers from the side. I would say the key word here is like thrown, right? And then I don't see that anywhere there, so that's not in there. C, no large identifiable fragments of the object reach the ground. This is actually saying quite the opposite of that, so it's definitely not C. We're left with D. And then now we can go back to a question like 6, which is asking for the grand idea, right? Because it's asking us to compare the two. And looking at the answers here, the location of the event, speed of the object that it was traveling, the density of Earth's atmosphere, the type of object that enters Earth's atmosphere. We can see that now in the first sentence actually of each of these scientists' opinions. So this is more like reading comprehension. Remember, it only shows up once, and always be able to cite what your answers are using keywords. Best of luck.